Hey, I'm Rora.
I'm Jane.
And we are Birds of Clay.
And we're here to talk all things Australian pottery and ceramic art.
So put your kettle on.
And let's have a chat. We would like to pay our respects to the traditional custodians on the lands on which this podcast is recorded. We acknowledge the rich history of art, craft and storytelling that has been occurring for millennia, and acknowledge elders past, present and country as provider, protector and guide. Working with clay is intrinsically linked to country, and we would not be here without the care and connection that our First Nations peoples have shown for thousands of years on this continent we call Australia.
Hello, everyone. Hey, Jane.
Hi, Rora.
How's it going?
It's good.
It's good?
It's nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. I
Yeah.
really missed out. Well, I missed you last episode.
Oh, I know. I missed you too.
Yeah, but it was amazing to listen to.
Thank you. It was a fun chat.
You did really well.
Thank you.
And I really enjoyed the break, and I will be repaying you a favour and that just relaxing moment. So
Yes. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a while since we've chatted.
I know.
What's been going on?
Well, I had a big pot that I fired in Bill's kiln in the reduction. Cool. It had lots of spikes on it, and it came out with a bit of a gaping hole in the side, a crack that opened up. So that was a bit shit. But lovely Peter suggested getting it repaired. So I've taken it to Brisbane to Wendy Ma, and she does kintsugi, like the proper kintsugi. So that's going to be fixed.
Sounds
and I
like
can't
a great
wait.
solution.
Yeah. I don't know why. It's one of those things with when anything cracks in the kiln, so many people are like, oh, just kintsugi it. Just kintsugi it.
It's a bit of a pottery
It's
joke.
become a bit of a joke
Yeah.
that I never
Kintsugi.
actually considered doing it.
Yeah.
But I'm excited.
Yeah, and it feels like the perfect pot to do it on. Like,
Yeah.
it's conceptual. The colours will all be complementary, and yeah.
I've never felt before that anything has been worth fixing until now. So yeah, it'll be good. The process takes 5 to 13 weeks.
Oh wow!
So I've just done a little look on Wendy's page, and it looks like she keeps them, like she does a bit of the gap filling and keeps it in an airtight container. And then we'll come back to it. And so I think maybe it needs a bit of like curing time.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'll have to ask her about it because when I dropped it off, she wasn't home. So I just left it to her husband. But yeah, it'll be really cool to actually like pick it up and ask her some questions about the process. And
Yeah, that's great. Awesome.
yeah. And her work is very neat and beautiful. So
Yeah.
also her ceramics too. We'll link her in the description.
Yeah.
Check her out.
Might be someone to have a chat to one day. Just say.
I was thinking that.
Yeah.
Coming for you, Wendy.
I know. We've got to start following up those people we want to chat with.
Oh, the
So
list
many.
is long.
I
Yes.
know. Yeah.
If you're listening and we have asked to interview you, yes, we still will. We're just getting there and
We have full lives.
yeah,
Yeah.
juggling everything.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
one thing that's I don't think we've talked about is, well, in detail, is your teaching gig.
Oh yeah.
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 How's it going?
So we've done 5 weeks of throwing, which was really good. The weather's been really damp, so we have no class this week because we're bisking. Hopefully if everything dries. And then the last class is glazing. But yeah, it's been really good. I'm feeling really tired every week though. It's crazy just throwing in a couple lessons at nighttime and just that drive to Toowoomba and back. It's crazy how much that affects. Like my Wednesday now is my tired day. I don't do anything Wednesday. I think because Tuesdays I've been like making in the studio all day as well while I'm up
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So yeah. But no, great. Very fun. So many people want to join the club now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Very
You'd be
good.
such a good teacher.
Some people are actually one lady, Leonie, she's gonna do the course again.
Yeah, she was telling me. That's so good.
She loves it.
Yeah.
So that'll be good.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Tell me about your stuff and what's happening at uni.
Oh, yeah, look, I'm in deep at uni at the moment.
Assessment time.
Yeah, Tuesday's assessment. And
Tuesday.
Yeah.
This Tuesday.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, going to check the kiln at uni after our chat. I know. And I've made a very ambitious / what would you say, strange sculpture work this time.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's been a good journey.
You seem nervous.
I'm very nervous.
Why are you nervous?
Because it's experimental.
Yeah.
And so it was basically a whole lot of stained porcelain, because I decided to use porcelain because that's, the easiest clay to work with.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Stained porcelain made this like kind of forest work with all different coloured, like woven together, kind of extruded and rolled and like pressed through sieve. Kind of, it's like a forest, yeah?
So
And then
all different techniques.
Yeah, yeah, all like kind of squished together with a bit of vinegar water.
Cool.
Yeah, that came through the bisque okay, and then I put a porcelain slab on top, and of course it shrunk and cracked, which is kind of the point.
Yeah.
But now I'm firing a bisque piece with a green porcelain slab kind of on top of it.
Oh.
And so how that's going to turn out is anyone's guess. There's a bit of glaze in there too.
I want to see pictures.
Yeah.
I've seen some pictures.
Yeah, look, when I first did it, kind of looked like spanakopita, like a spinach pie.
Delicious.
So, yeah, maybe not really the conceptual idea I was going for. But yeah, we'll see.
But it also made you hungry in the studio.
Yeah.
I'm always like thinking, oh, this is pastry. Oh, this could be icing.
I know, everyone kept saying it looked like plasticine.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, am I offended? I'm not quite sure. No, it was good. It did look like plasticine.
Good old plasticine.
Yeah, yeah. But that's, look, just uni. I've started a trimester subject in creative writing, which is really nice for a break.
Woohoo.
I'm really enjoying that. But yeah, semester's just about to end. I'll be doing the creative writing across the trimester, and then I start my last semester.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I feel a bit tired, a bit creatively done at the moment. So I'm going to have a little break, I think. I've been doing the markets. They've been going okay. Everyone wants a mug.
Yep.
Yes, we know.
Yeah.
I'm collecting bricks for a wood-fired kiln, which is exciting. I think it's a bit of a long plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a really fantastic workshop happening down at Middle Pocket, which the Vanessa whose property the kiln's on is running it is just awesome. We met her at Golgong, and I would love to go do that workshop, but at the moment finances and time are stopping me.
Yeah.
So that's okay. There'll be time.
I kind of feel like still recovering a bit from Golgong.
Maybe.
Because, as incredible as it was and wouldn't change anything about it, it was a big chunk of money, like accommodation,
financially, yeah.
travel, food, the ticket itself, fuel, just still like recouping from that.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Sales for the market have been like very up and down, but the last two very quiet for me. So
cost of living crisis is real.
For sure.
Which is, makes you rethink. Do people need valuable handmade ceramics when we're struggling to buy veggies? But beautiful things are always important.
I agree.
Yeah. That's kind of me.
What about stock wise at the market? Are you like still making keeping up with that?
Yeah. The studio is really cold and wet and not very nice at the moment. So I've got to get in there, clean it all out, and then maybe move the wheel to a warmer spot for winter. And I need to, oil bottles have been going really well too.
Yay.
Yep. And mugs, so more of them. There's want for tiny vases again, so
Tiny vases.
Tiny vases. Well, small vases, I should say, because a tiny is like tiny.
Yeah.
But yeah, just, you know, your
Mhm.
classic bud vase kind of size. So yeah.
Good fun.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's about me.
Nice.
Yeah. Any other things, Laura?
I'm struggling with making market stock because I'm working on some commission work and just thinking mainly about my exhibition in January and like making work for that. So I feel like doing that and teaching that something has had to give, and the market stock has become lower on the priority list. So I just haven't gotten there, you know. So I'm just thinking for the rest of the year and teaching more terms and all of that. I've been talking to Mum about it because we do the markets together, and she just said, well, maybe markets need to take a bit of a time out. So,
Yeah. I've been a bit the same. I feel like it might be the thing that gives.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's unreliable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it's also like something that I think is important to say too, like we are in June now. So it's the end of the financial year, and I've just started I did last financial year, but this financial year I've just started working a lot more on my ABN and working as an independent contractor in work on contracts, but also my pottery business has now become income I declare. So it's an interesting time where I'm like, am I going to have to pay tax? Because I haven't been paying tax as I go, because normally my expenses and my income kind of cancel each other out.
Yeah.
Or that my work that I work on like a pay, what do you call it? Like your like salary. When you're on a salary, the tax automatically gets taken out.
Yeah.
So, last year it all kind of evened out and I got about $1,000 back.
Yeah.
Which I normally always get about $1,000 back. But this year I'm like, I may need to pay $1,000.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, not fun. Yeah.
I haven't done, this is very naughty of me, but I haven't done my finances since December.
That's okay. Like you put tax in last year though, hey. You've done your tax.
I did my tax the year before. Yeah. So I didn't go and get my tax done last year. Because I didn't make enough to pay any tax. Yeah. I still had it in the account, but I thought, well, I haven't made enough to declare it and pay. So I'm just, next time I go, I'll just do the 2 years. Because I very ambitiously was like, yeah, I'll make enough to pay tax next financial year. So
do you get tax, like do you have a system where it gets taken out?
I put it aside, so I pay it in a lump sum.
Yeah.
But yeah, the last financial year I didn't need to, so I had a lump of money that I had set aside for tax, but didn't make enough to actually
pay. Yeah, you're under that, like
under the threshold,
18,000 or whatever it is.
Yeah. So I don't know how I've done this year because I haven't checked.
No, I just did that, like added my square income to my like other incomes. But yeah, clever. It's amazing how little you can live on. I'll just say that.
It is. Yeah, we live humbly, don't we? Yeah.
But that's okay. It's what you value in life, I think.
Yeah.
Hey, I just remembered another thing.
What?
You got electric kilns all going.
Oh, yeah. I've done 2 firings.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2. Yeah, 2. I unpacked a bisque this morning and I had exploded some things, and that's very naughty of me, and I should know better. I thought I programmed it slow enough to like dry them out a little bit, because as we know, nothing is drying right now.
99% humidity, people.
Yeah. But I packed it with a friend's things and Mum's things and my things, and of course my things blew up. I was like, Rora, you rookie. That was just very silly. But that's okay. Yeah. I was unpacking and I literally said out loud to myself, that's okay. I'll remake these. I can do that. No worries. And the dogs are looking at me like, what are you talking about?
Positive self-talk's important.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
But it's firing okay. The elements are going well.
Yeah, so I put a cone pack. I did 3 shelves, a bottom, middle, top, and the top shelf looks like it's 40 degrees cooler than the bottom.
Oh, that's weird.
So the bottom and middle look like they're probably within 10 degrees of each other.
Yeah.
Hottest at the bottom, but yeah, top one.
Wasn't in front of a peephole, was it?
No.
That's what happens with mine. I know mine, like, if you put it in front of the peephole, and it's because I think my bungs are, like, homemade and not very good.
Oh, yeah.
That's really much cooler.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it's weird, hey, yeah.
I did cone placement in the middle shelf, right in the middle. The bottom shelf, I did it at the front, and the back shelf right at the back corner.
Oh, yeah,
So,
cool. Interesting. Because you'd think that would be the hottest.
I know.
I wonder if
hot
your
air
top-
rises.
I wonder if your top element's not working or something.
Maybe.
Yeah. So have you just done bisques?
No, the first one was a glaze firing. So I programmed it. I wanted to go to cone 6. And I programmed it to 1200 with a 10-minute hold.
Oh, yeah. Did it over?
Yeah,
Right.
and cone 7 was down on the middle and bottom shelf.
Yeah.
And
cool.
cone 7 had started to go on the top shelf. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe the soak's good, just bring the temperature down maybe.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Well,
Because that kind of can even out the kiln. Yeah, I've found.
This is a problem I've been having with my black clay and zinc-free clear, is I've been getting a lot of blisters. So I thought, because in the gas kiln I've been firing, and it's hard to hold because they're in there for too long because the gas has momentum and it'll just keep heating up and overfire. So I thought in this electric kiln will be good because I can program a soak at an even temperature. I'll get rid of the bubbles, but it didn't.
Is it Walker's or Cesco zinc-free powder that you mixed up? That's the one I had all the dramas with.
Yeah.
So I think you can't, like, when it overfires, it does that.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm.
It's not good.
No. Because I'm pretty sure I looked at the sticker yesterday. It goes to 1240.
Does it? I thought it was 1220. But yeah.
Mm.
But I guess cone 7 is 1240.
I'm not sure.
I just remember someone saying, like, oh, watch it at the top end. It's not that great.
Yeah.
And I remember all my blistering dramas. Yeah. Mine was too thick and too hot.
I think mine might be a little bit too thick as well.
Yeah.
But that actually brings us to
I know.
today's topic.
It does.
Glaze.
Yay, glaze.
Yay, glaze. Oh,
Don't
no.
glaze over.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, glaze.
Glaze. It's a journey.
We have had some journeys.
We have. Yeah. Where should we start?
Well, let's start why we want to do this episode.
Yeah.
So you obviously, in the classroom context, have had...
Yeah, I've just had some conversations and I feel like, I don't know, glaze is an interesting thing. I think there's a lot of misinformation about it. And I think, like in my workshops that I do at Tinker, I have a lot of chats about it. So I think it might be a good, maybe we could just go through what is glaze to start with. I know some of you out there will be like, oh my goodness, I know what glaze is. But, you know, it's
I don't need you to tell me what glaze is.
Yeah.
But we know a few people that listen that are all beginners. So this will just be good to kind of get a few
it's good
things cleared up for
to
them
kind
as well.
of, I had to do a bit of research and I still am not 100% sure about some things. But and they're not clear definitions, I think, which is interesting as well. So basically, I guess the first thing that is really confusing is underglaze.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's in its name. It goes underglaze. But is it a glaze? Is it not? It's basically like a coloured slip with additives like gums and things like that. Is that what you would say?
Yeah, to make it more brushable.
Yeah, and it's usually covered with a clear or transparent glaze. Some people cover it with a transparent but slightly coloured glaze, but normally it's clear glaze over the top. And the reason you would use underglaze, I think, is if you're doing like illustrative, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Works because you can get it, it's more stable, it doesn't run as much as glaze, and you can get detail and use it with a brush. So underglaze is underglaze?
It's kind of like how
Sorry.
it's kind of a colour palette for, you know, like you said, illustrative, but if a painter has a box of paints, you know, they're going to get all their paints out, do layers, do stuff like that, and know that, like you said, the paint isn't going to move.
Yeah.
So it's good in that sense. You can mix them, a lot of them, to make new colours. It's pretty much just like, like a paint palette.
Yeah, because the colour that they are is often similar to the colour they come out. Not always.
Not always.
Because especially, you know, cobalt is that light pinky purple colour and then it's dark blue.
Yeah.
But I think, and some underglazes burn out at higher temperatures. So
Purples.
they're purples, reds, reds, I don't know, pinks definitely.
I've had problems with mostly purple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of them actually, like obviously you can use underglaze without a clear glaze over the top. But I found that some colours self-glaze, so become shiny. Most of them don't. Yeah. Purple I found too. An Amico purple self-glazed went really shiny itself. And that's just probably to do with the makeup of the actual underglaze. It probably has a lot of like a flux in it or something.
Yeah. Sometimes with underglazes, so I don't use underglaze very often, but sometimes I may use some all over a pot. Like if I want a flat black background and carve into it or something and then paint the base as well. I find, you know, even without glazing the base, sometimes the base of the pot, because it's got that underglaze on it, may stick a little bit to the shelf. And like you do have to be careful and test each one to make sure that you're not going to do that and ruin your shelves.
And your pot, because it doesn't look great, does it, if it's patchy underglaze?
Yeah, it doesn't look great.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. Like underglaze is used in sgraffito.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know you can do it with glaze too, but normally it's an underglaze that people scratch into and reveal like the clay underneath to get patterns.
Yeah, or do inlays.
It's
good for graphic work.
Is that what that's called, when you like scratch and then put underglaze in and then kind of
I don't know.
Inlay.
Yeah.
Underglaze. Woo.
But what is an engobe?
Engobe. I can never really say that right. Who knows? No, look, I did some research. It's really quite similar. So I guess there's underglaze, engobe, and slip. And so slip is usually just runny clay that you can colour, I guess, and use. So you can use it as an underglaze. Normally it's like a pot's dipped into a slip. If you're using it as a decoration kind of thing, it's in the leather hard state, maybe. Or so an engobe is more opaque than a slip, they say on the internet. And it has maybe less clay in it and more flux. So to me that kind of means that it might self-glaze. But look, I am no expert on engobe. I'm still really lost.
It's not really something that I've used, engobe. I've used a lot of coloured slip before though.
Yeah.
Slip is really good I was doing opaque pink. So by the way, coloured slip is incorporating like a mason stain or a body stain into your slip.
Or an oxide.
Yeah. Mixing it really well. So you get all your lumps out and your colour's consistent. And then applying it to greenware. So I've done it to a few sculptures with the pink, and it's good because it maintains its like 3-dimensional shape as well. So you can apply it quite thick. And so I was doing drips and the drips held.
Yeah,
so
they're
then
like
glazing over the top, you can still feel the texture of all that slip on there. So
I feel like engobe might be like that too. Like I think it's a little bit more, has more body to it too than an underglaze. Maybe that's the only difference between an underglaze and an engobe, is engobe has a little bit more body to it. But I'm not sure. If you know, let us know. Yeah. Because we are no experts.
We can only share our personal experience. And chat.
Yeah, it's true. And so that's kind of the underglaze world. Yeah. And then we have glazes. So glazes are basically made up of minerals, and the colour of glaze is often developed in the firing. It's not as it looks, like I have a grey glaze that's pink.
Yeah.
I have a green glaze that's not green, you know, so
Mhm.
yeah.
Glazes are made up of bunches of tiny little rocks.
Yeah, basically minerals that melt together. Like
Mm.
there's fluxes that bring down temperature firing and a whole lot of things, alumina, silica, that combine together and melt to create a surface. They don't have to be glossy. They can be matte. They can be textured. They can be crystalline. You get a lot more diversity in glaze than underglaze.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you can get floating glazes that have phase separation where that's, beautiful.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
So stunning.
You can get crackle glazes. You get gloop glazes. Like,
there's really glaze. It's one of those things. So maybe I'll share how glaze was introduced to me.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. So basically, at uni in the studio, we were shown initially underglazes and clear glazes. So we had a studio clear that everyone would dip into. But basically, underglaze was the introductory. This is how you decorate a pot. So you've got your bare clay, underglaze, and then you dip it in the clear. And then we did a unit on making glaze. So we did a triaxial blend, which is where you have all your test tiles. You've got basically a row, like say 10 on the bottom, then 9, then 8, and an amount of test tiles. And on each corner of the triangle, we did a flux, a clay, and what's the other ingredient in glaze?
Silica? No.
Silica's clay.
Oh, yeah, it is.
I don't know, some other ingredient. But basically...
Pacifier? I don't know.
Maybe colorant.
No, what would it be? So you had a clay, a flux. Yeah, I don't know.
I can't remember. Anyways.
Feldspar.
Feldspar
is like, This is where, if you want to know more chemistry about glaze, don't listen to us. Listen to For Flux Sake.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
For Flux Sake is a great resource.
Yeah. And it's something I think we both want to learn more about.
We're also not pretending to be experts.
No, we're not. But this is but triaxial blends.
Yeah, so we did
got
that.
3 things that contribute to a glaze.
Yeah, so you can kind of see in the development of the glaze, you do separate percentages. So in each corner might be 100% silica mixed with water, dip it, 100% of the flux, dip it. And you can kind of see how they develop in different ratios of each ingredient. So each tile is different ratios, different ingredients, and you can kind of find your stable glaze and then pick one, add colorants from there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was very dry and like kind of dull to learn.
Yeah.
Because we were just doing, your basic chemistry, not anything super exciting. And as a beginner, you kind of like looking at these artists doing all these amazing things with glazes and you're like, I don't want to learn the basics.
Yeah.
But I look back now and I'm grateful for that because it's good like foundational way to start. But it didn't get me very excited about glaze. So I haven't really started my glaze making journey until a few years later, like last year. So, but since then, been using lots of commercial glazes.
Yeah. And I think that's I definitely went down the commercial glaze path.
Oh, there's so many beautiful options out there.
There is. But that's glaze. Glaze is beautiful, interesting. Some people don't like glaze.
Yeah.
I understand that too. Like, it's hard to get matte glazes that are functional. Like, it's hard to get.
Why is that, Jade?
I guess because it doesn't, like, a shiny surface is more robust. I don't know. Like,
it's the texture in the glaze. So if you think about a matte glaze, it feels that way because microscopically the surface it's not flat.
Yeah, it's bumpy.
It's bumpy.
Yeah.
So it grabs and it's like it holds onto. Say if you have a matte glaze inside a coffee cup, it will slowly stain the inside of the coffee cup.
Yeah, especially if you have turmeric chai.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Orange coffee cup.
Yep.
Yum yum.
Yep, definitely. And I know I was listening to someone talk about dinnerware the other day and they said some matte glazes, like they're really robust and great and food safe, but they're marked by cutlery because of that rough surface.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of
it
like,
leaves the mark of the cutlery because the cutlery is like wearing away on the glaze.
Yeah, but that's the functional side. Yeah. But yeah, and then I guess the last thing I kind of wanted to mention was on glaze and luster. So on glaze is like, I think it was in the 80s, like China painting was really popular. So it's kind of like a third firing or a post-glaze firing where you paint a really stinky thing. Like really, it's kind of, what would it be, like petroleum-based kind of
I've never used an on glaze.
No, on a glaze. So it's the same as luster, basically. Yeah. Luster is the same kind of thing. So you fire it low, you put it on glaze, hence the name on glaze, and you fire it to about 800 degrees. Is that right?
Yeah, about 750, 800.
Yeah.
But I know that luster in different countries it's formulated differently. In Australia, we have luster that's mixed in oil, so it's oil based, and the carrier oil burns away in the kiln and leaves the gold behind.
And on glaze, I feel like we use lusters a bit in the Western world, but I feel like
I love luster.
Yeah, you do.
It's so good.
I nearly bought some for this, like one of my projects.
Yeah,
and I was like, $62 for 2 grams, and I'm like, I think I can avoid luster at the moment.
It is so expensive.
Does 2 grams go far?
It does.
Yeah, okay,
it does.
That's good to know.
Yeah. You can also buy the thinner, which will make it, because after you're meant to pour a little bit out, like drop by drop, and put the lid back on, because as it's introduced oxygen, it kind of thickens up and gets a bit syrupy.
Yeah.
I'm pretty bad at putting the lid on, and I'm pretty good at spilling my bottles. So, yeah, a little bit heartbreaking.
Spilling.
Yeah, I just like knock them over. I'm very not aware of my space.
It's expensive knockover.
It is, and I like trying to like mop it all up off the table with the paintbrush and get it back in the bottle. But it's just beautiful.
Yeah,
I love luster. Learned the hard way that it's not microwave safe.
No, because it's sparkly, isn't it?
Yeah, I just didn't think about it.
I know that from the 90s, putting like some like cheap dinnerware in that had the silver rim. And
pretty
cool. Yeah. But yeah, what I was going to say is like on glaze, I think is used a lot in Japanese, Chinese decoration.
Mm-hmm.
I know Joanna Domain, she uses on glaze in a lot of her pots, and she's a real expert in it. So if anyone wants to know more, I recommend looking her up. She runs workshops on it and stuff. But yeah, and I think probably the benefit of on glaze is the bright colours, and also what you brush is what is like, it doesn't bleed or anything. Because even underglaze, even though we said it was stable, it can still bleed with the clear glaze over the top, and you can lose colour, you can lose detail, stuff like that.
You really just need to test everything.
Test, as they say. Yeah. So you started with doing triaxial blends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you start?
Well, I did as we all know, I did my pottery workshop at the club, just like your students are now.
Tell me about that day, because I'm about to teach that day.
Yeah.
So tell me about your experience.
Look, there was these big white buckets, and they had a mysterious liquid in them, and we were dipping and brushing, and we all just went a bit crazy. I remember thinking there wasn't anything I loved out of the colour choices. So on each bucket there was like a little ring that was glazed. So I just went a bit mad and like did a lot of colour. I also remember using a bit of cobalt on white, and that didn't really work. It was really muddy and not very nice.
Yeah.
It was like, but it was kind of fun. I just like, when I started pottery, I just didn't care that much. I was just having fun and playing. Good. And so like, I remember actually my plate came out probably the best, where I dipped it in a green, a blue and a brown.
Beautiful.
And when it fired, it was such a good 70s kind of plate. It's got this, it almost looks like a mountain in it. You know how like when you dip, you can get those really nice intersections. So that was it. It was really exciting seeing how they turned out. once they were fired. I don't remember being that that is just one of the most exciting things ever. And I think that's
Was that
why
the moment you got hooked?
I think it is. Hey, like, I mean, being on the wheel definitely hooked me, but I think someone said is like every time you open the kiln, it's like Christmas. This is someone who'd been potting for 40 years, and I'm like, I still feel the same.
It is true.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah. Sometimes you get a really crap present, but that's okay. Just like next time it'll be better.
But there's also, you know, every time we do have failures, which, you know, it's not one of those things that never happens. Like maybe once a month we might have a bad firing, depending on how often we're firing. But there's also always a lesson in it too.
Yeah, there is.
Like, oh, I did not apply that glaze thick enough. Oh, I definitely applied that glaze way too thick. And now I need to recoat my shelf.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I've said it before, but that's one of the great things about ceramics is you just are always learning and you're always humbled. Like me pulling out my shards of pottery from the kiln this morning.
Yeah, I may be doing that later today.
Oh, no, you won't.
Yes, anyway. Yeah, so that was my beginning. And then, like, I was very much self-taught pottery, which I feel like I learned a lot from looking at pottery supply online websites. So I was like, right, I'm going to fire to this temperature. So, yeah, the club we fired to cone 10. So they were cone 10 glazes. And they were like just for the club. Like you couldn't use them when you're a member.
Oh, okay.
I didn't really know the rules. So I was like, oh, I've got to get some glazes. So I looked at a pottery supply shop and just looked at the ones I liked and ordered them. And then this is like my first kiln load on my own. I was so nervous. Oh my God, I was so nervous. I think I've said before I put everything on stilts because I thought they'd drip onto the shelf and it'd be the worst thing in the world. But yeah, I used German glazes called Bots. I used Amico, I used Mako, and I did use some Australian ones. But because, oh no, that's right. At first I did all the kind of cone 10 glazes that are Australian. But because I went to cone 6, because, why did I think it was because the kiln, I don't know, maybe I read about energy efficiency or something, can't remember.
Okay, yeah.
And maybe I was looking at those pretty American glazes and went, ooh, cone 6. But the German glazes went hot, and so they were really interesting. But it was a journey because I remember opening up the pot and it was like pudding. And I'm like, they were brushing glazes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you brush
I've
this?
only ever seen a tip glaze.
Yeah. And obviously now I know you add a bit of water. But then I was like, but this is how they're meant to be. And it was just, I watched a million YouTube videos and slowly learned. But I remember the first time I used these pudding glazes, I put it on so thick that it all crawled.
Yeah.
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 But, you know, it was good learning. Mum's got that as a pot plant bowl still. And
nice.
Yeah, and some of them worked really well. I used Ming, which is a classic, I think, Northcote or glaze. That was okay. I remember thinking, oh, I could see the brush marks and it wasn't that good, but we still use those bowls today.
Yeah,
chunkers.
Nice. So commercial glaze, it's something I've noticed, you know, as you get a bit more professional, other potters will ask you, oh, did you make this glaze?
Yeah. I remember you asking me and I felt so bad going, no.
And what is that?
And you were like, I feel better now.
What is that shame that comes with using a commercial glaze?
Because I've got this line that I say to people now. I'm like, do you ask painters if they use their own paint?
That's true,
yeah,
isn't it?
Like, do you grind your own pigment and then mix it with gums? No.
And a painter would just be like, oh, no.
Yeah.
And I feel no second way about it.
I guess so. I've just started on the journey of making my own.
Yeah. And
I have been playing around for the last couple of years, but I think the joy in making your own is that you've got more control.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's a hell of a lot cheaper. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. That's exactly why I've started making my own for economical reasons.
Yeah.
Commercial glaze, as beautiful as they are, actually the other benefit about using commercial glaze is they're tested. They're tried.
They're so reliable.
You don't need to go through that process of making testing, firing, all of those. So you can just buy it, use it, and it's going to work well.
And most of them don't run.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Like, you put it on thick, you get these beautiful colours.
That's right.
And they don't run.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got right into the Mako glazes, the American ones, and I picked a palette from them that I loved. And that's, I think, one of the big selling points of my pottery is people like, I love your palette.
Yes.
So I've actually just recently, because I can't develop them all straight away, I've actually bought them in powdered form. So I bought 4.5 kilos of 2 of them. And so I've started dipping into the commercial glaze. So that's a really different journey. And again, I'm like, oh God, I got to learn how to dip. But anyway, we'll get back to that. But yes.
Yeah. But yeah, making glazes. It's been a slow start because buying raw materials, there's a lot that you need. There's so many different kinds. If you want to make more than one glaze, or if you want to make different types that have different base recipes, you're going to need 20 ingredients. So I've just slowly been collecting, and I went and bought a bunch more that I didn't have last week. So I've got maybe 30 different raw materials now.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So just slowly collecting. And it's one of those things, economically, it's harder to do as well. So if you want to make a 5 kilo bucket of glaze, it may cost $100 to $2 worth of materials. But we'll get you a lot further.
Yeah.
So
you got to make sure that's an okay glaze.
Yes.
Yeah.
More on that later.
Yeah. So how did you, when you were getting into making your own glazes, how did you school yourself? What resources did you use?
Well, I actually did make a couple at uni doing my bachelor, and they came out okay. I only made really small batches of those because the resources there at uni were really good. But it's one of those things when you're doing so much at uni, right? All the subjects, all the things. Glaze making takes so much time and energy and focus to actually test things.
Even getting the glaze room unlocked at the moment, I'm just like, where's the person who has the key?
You have to find someone to get the key to unlock it, and people are everywhere at uni. It's always difficult.
But it's a great resource.
Oh, great resource though.
Yeah.
So I did a little bit in uni, not too much, but afterwards, when I was trying to get the studio up and running here and decided, okay, no, I'm ready to stop spending all my money on commercial glazes. I'm going to start making my own. I still needed a bit more confidence. So I went and did a 3-day workshop glaze making in Brisbane at Maz and Mika.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that was great.
I did my intermediate throwing.
Yeah. So Mika taught that. And that was good. That was just everything I'd learned before, but a bit of a refresh because it had been a couple of years. And also just bit of confidence building.
I was going to say, sometimes it's just the confidence, hey?
Yeah. It's I knew basically everything I needed to do. But, Mika gave us a few recipes. So I went away, and this is quite funny because I think I copied the recipe down wrong. But that is the one I went and made a lot of. I made a little test batch. It's okay. It's all right. Yeah. I made a little test batch, and it turned out great. And then I made 5 kilos powder of it, and I copied down. So generally colorants, you're looking at sometimes you put 2% cobalt in to a recipe to add your blue, or 8% of something. I copied down that I needed 18% of black iron oxide.
Oh yeah,
which is a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of metal. So the glaze is really dense. It hard pans in the bucket, so it takes me a really long time to mix it. And things happen in the kiln that I can't quite explain.
I know.
But I really like it. It's still good. If I don't glaze it evenly, if I get all the drips and runs, they stay on the pot. If I can't smooth it out. But I think that's because of the really high metal content in it.
Oh, interesting.
And I've had an interesting result on one pot that it was fired in an electric kiln to cone 6, and the whole one side of this big black pot flashed yellow. So it's got this
that's
big,
not one of my favorites.
It's got this big.
I was wondering if it was that glaze.
And I don't know why.
I know.
And neither did our lecturer. And I don't know that I ever will until I really get my head down and research glazes a bit more. But
I mean, it's one of the beauties of ceramics, isn't it? There's always something more to learn.
yeah,
And
that's it.
A lot. There's
Mhm.
a lot in glazes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had a recipe from that space.
Yeah.
So I think the first recipe I made on my own was called Chun Seafoam. It was a beautiful one off Glazy.
John Britt?
Yeah, it was a John Britt, but
Yeah.
then I looked on Glazy. So Glazy, if anyone's thinking of making their own ceramics, I'm sorry, not ceramics. We are all making ceramics. Your own glaze.
Yeah.
Yeah, check out Glazy. It's this amazing resource filled with recipes. It can be a bit overwhelming, but I learnt a lot from just looking that. So I got a recipe off Glazy and I made it and it was beautiful. It was perfect.
Yeah, great.
And then I was reading a bit more about it and it's like kind of like a copper green, face separated kind of beautiful glaze. And I was reading more about it and everyone's like, this is a beautiful glaze, but you can't use it on functional wear. And I'm like, oh, why? And they're like, it's not robust. You can do something called an acid test. So I did an acid test on it where I made this little, like just a little cup with the sea foam on it and I put vinegar in it and overnight it ate away the surface of the glaze. So I was like, oh, damn, I can't use it. So then
That's disappointing.
Yeah, and so then I just stopped making glazes for a while. I'm like, it's so easy to use commercial glazes.
That's funny. Like, I feel like with glazes, you have to be in the mood and have that like mental capacity. Okay, I'm going to make some glazes. I'm going to test some things. And then once you've done that, it's like, okay, I don't have time or energy to give to this for another few months. Yeah. And you go away.
Yeah.
And then you come back.
And I think that's probably, again, because I was making functional work and I just knew those commercial glazes were safe.
Yeah.
With food, food safe's a whole nother story. But that they weren't going to make anyone sick. And so I was like, I feel confident selling work with these glazes on them. And I felt that after that test I did, and I was like, I just don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So then, it's only kind of now that I'm coming back to making glaze again. Yeah.
I've made a few test batches this week.
Ooh.
So just little 100-gram batches. So I'm making testing a gold metallic.
Oh,
so like
wow.
heavy manganese base in the colorant to like make the gold. And it's called Fat Cat Red.
I know, it sounds so good.
So that'll be fun. That's like a raspberry kind of red. And also
how do you get the colour, do you know, with the Fat Cat Red? Like, do you know what the colorants are? Because I'm doing a pink at the moment.
Red iron oxide.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a little bit of chrome.
Is it a reduction?
No, electric.
Yeah, maybe chrome.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing a pinky red. It's one of the ones I'm developing, and it's a chrome tin.
Nice.
So this weird thing happens if you put tin, which, tin, it's really cheap at the moment, isn't it? What is it?
Just
$25 for 50 grams? Very expensive.
Yeah.
And so you put tin in it as the opacifier, which, so tin and zircon are pacifiers, aren't they? They're the ones that kind of make your glaze nice and rich coloured.
Yeah.
And then if you put a tiny bit of chrome, the tin and the chrome do magic together and create pink.
Yeah.
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 So
I've heard that if you have other tin glazes in your kiln that do not have the chrome in it, but if you put a piece with chrome in it, it can create pink flashing around on other pots.
Yeah.
It goes up into the air and travels and does fun things.
That's amazing.
Which is cool. Some people do it on purpose. Yes. It's quite fun.
Yeah. So Fat Cat Red, that sounds good.
Yeah, can't wait. And another one that I cannot recall off the top of my head right now, but it should be good.
So are they cone 6 glazes?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, hearing you talk about the Pottery Club glazes, they are quite 70s, that colour palette. So there's like apricot red, like a matte blue, brown, what else is there? There's a green, but they're all very like...
Yeah, which I think they were probably really reliable glazes. And I mean, they're cone 10 as well. And they're really reliable glazes. And I think some of them have come from Janet Debusse's original book, which is another fantastic resource we have in Australia. And so, yeah, I think they're kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The secretary of the Pottery Club has expressed some interest in changing up the colour palette.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky enough to go home with the reclaim from the class. So I've got a bunch of reclaim of stoneware clay, PB103, which I'll be honest, I don't really like it. So I'm going to change the class clay. I found the PB103 is very kind of muddy.
It's got real slippy.
It's
it used to be
slippy.
perfect. It was the most beautiful clay when I started.
Yeah, and it's really soft. And I was wondering, I don't know that this is a good one to start out with. And I had one lady in the class with a bit of throwing experience, and she, without me even saying anything about the clay, she said, I don't know that this is a good one to start out with. And just hearing that back reassured me that, okay, yeah, no, I am going to change the clay. But I was looking at changing it to the class clay to Cone 6.
Oh, yeah.
And just because I've got a bunch of really nice coloured Cone 6 glazes that I've tested, maybe just making some new ones up there and doing Cone 6 for everyone.
Yeah, cool.
So,
because there's some good,
there's June Perry Purple, there's a good Spearmint, Opal Blue.
Yeah, I feel like
bright ones.
You got some of the glazes from Old Forge, did you, Joe Thompson? Yeah, he has another really great resource. We might put some of the resources in the show notes.
Yes.
It's a great idea.
Also, if you are glazing and have any issues with like pinholes, blisters, crawling, anything, a good resource is Digital Fire online.
Yeah.
You can just search pinholing and they've got articles upon articles of why that could be happening and things
Slightly
you could change. Very overwhelming,
but good.
But good, yeah.
Yeah. What other great? Oh, another. The resource I think that was the best when I started was Kim Ulrich. Is an amazing potter from Brisbane that works a lot with found clays and glaze making, and she has a Facebook page called, I think it's like Learning Glaze Making for Australian Potters.
Cool.
And it actually has a guide in the Facebook page, and I learnt so much from that. And that's really what gave me the confidence to start making glazes. So
yeah, great.
Yeah.
Ooh. So I was wondering if you had any glazing horror stories.
Oh yeah, always.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah. It's very interesting at the moment. It's very present.
Currently.
Yes, currently. Part of my assessment for this semester is I have said that I will make 2 functional glazes. So I have currently been using a Mako glaze that's a beautiful green called Green Tea. And so I'm trying to replace it with one that I've made myself. And I've used one of Kim Ulrich's recipes, Southern Ocean. It's a bit different, but it's quite nice. And look, I did 200 little mil tests of that. It was perfect. Loved it. And now I've made 10 kilos of it.
Have you?
Yeah.
How exciting.
But it's terrible.
Oh, what do you mean?
I don't know. I think it's too thin. So again, this is like hours away. I will know the result. And I don't know. Dipping's a whole journey, can I say?
I've dipped for a while now, but I'm still getting better at it,
Yeah. Because I'm quite a good brusher. I know people say brushing's a journey, but I've always done really well with brushing.
Yeah.
But yeah, dipping. So yeah, I've done that one, and then it hard pans like mad, like to the point. Like I've been mixing up with the drill, and it's kind of like burning the drill out trying to get into the hard pan. So
you're going to mix up. So this is what I'm thinking for my black one. A little bit of Epsom salt solution.
Yeah.
Tiny.
But you got to be careful. Too much will end up like jelly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Just tiny bit.
And they say to mix it in water first.
And then drops with your finger at a time.
Yeah. I was thinking that.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, sometimes I get down on myself if things aren't perfect straight away, rather than realising this is a journey.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a journey. I've also made a chrome tin pink, and I thought I put little amount of chrome in it, but I think I put a bit much.
Okay.
And so it's quite dark pink, which I really wanted a light pink. But it's pretty because it's got, it's really nice. breaks white.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool. And it also, both those glazes must have some sodium in them because they flash, which is another cool thing about glazes. So my Clay's mid 533 Keens, I use it all the time. It's a really nice kind of buff colour with a speckle. And flashing is when the glaze stops, and then where the glaze stops, the gap between, where the clay is, where the glaze stops, I'm struggling to explain this, kind of flashes this like deep brown, like
makes it toasty.
Toasty,
Ooh, yummy.
So
Yum,
nice.
yum, yum, yum.
I don't know, I just love it, even if it's not seeing it on the pot, it's still nice. Yeah, beautiful. So both of them do that. I dropped like the tongs I was using, like, you know when scissors cross over?
Oh, yeah,
The tongs did that, and I dropped a bowl in the glaze, and so then I had to like pull it out and wash all the glaze off and wait 5 days to dry it.
Oh, because nothing's drying right now.
And everything's time
How fun.
sensitive at the moment. So, yeah.
How fun.
Dipping. Woof.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been doing some research on dipping lately, actually.
Oh, good.
And I'm finding that I probably need to dip for a bit longer to give my glazes a bit more oomph.
Yeah.
I'm very like quick dip in, dip out, maybe only 2 seconds. But yeah, there's one glaze that I made that didn't come out how I wanted it, and I made 5 kilos of it.
Yeah.
But going back in, more people have been making it and commenting on Glazy and sharing their experience. One person said it needs a very, very thick application. So when you dip it, 12 seconds.
What?
I know.
But again, like,
so
it
I'm gonna
depends
give
how
that a
much
go.
water you've put in. And that's something I guess we should talk about is like, I was like, yes, I'm going to measure the specific gravity of every glaze I make. And I started doing it. And then I've now taken water out because as it settles, you can put the sponge on top of your bucket and suck up some of the water and things like that. Because I'm like, this one feels like it should be heavier. And so, yeah, specific gravity is like where you get I've got one of those cylinders like you had at science or school with 100 mils on it. And so I weigh 100 mils of water, and then I weigh 100 mils of glaze, and I divide one by the other, and I get a like 1.4 or something. So that's called the specific gravity. So obviously the bigger one, the glaze one by the water.
I should do that.
Yeah, because then I don't know, like from listening to For Flux sake, they also say to use viscosity thingy. So I've been thinking about getting one of them from a paint shop. That's like this little funnel where you put it in the glaze and then like to a level, and then you count till it empties.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And other people talk about hydrometers, but don't use a hydrometer, I don't think. I don't think they work that well in glaze.
It's funny so a lot of glaze books, well, the ones I have anyway, Gabrielle Klein and John Britt, they actually don't list specific gravity of each glaze.
Yeah.
They have information at the start of the book, but I've heard other potters say that each different glaze has a different specific gravity that it needs. So, you know, that's a whole other thing when you're making a glaze, is discovering where it sits comfortably and what it needs. Yeah. It's like glazes, it needs time and focus.
And also specific gravity, like, because I've been pushing things time-wise, I really love the last minute working. Just seems to be how I roll.
Yeah.
Glazes change. Like, you know, if you mix the glaze up and then dip straight away, it'll be really different to like 3 days.
Oh,
like, you're meant to leave it 3 days.
Yeah.
And the specific gravity can change like that because the minerals can start absorbing like more water.
Yeah, and some things can dissolve.
Yeah. And also like my buckets, their lids aren't super sealed, so obviously some of the water evaporates. So if I use it in a week, and that's what happened with that zinc-free clear that I used. That was the biggest disaster I think I've had.
It is really bothering me right now.
Yeah, so I had a whole kiln of, back to the problems, a whole kiln of speckly clay, which wasn't my favourite clay to work with. It was a real challenge to work with, but people loved it. And so like, I'm going to push through and make these. Made a whole kiln's worth, dipped it in this glaze that I had tested, but it came out great. But obviously the glaze was a little bit thicker.
Mm-hmm.
And everything ran onto the shelf and blistered bad. Like blistered, like you could run your finger over it and it like popped.
It made a noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that kind of blistering.
Yeah. Sounds like electric when you.
Yeah. And you're a bit like, oh, I didn't cut my finger. That's good because I could have.
Yeah. Very annoying.
Yeah. I lost some more. And that was like, I've been really lucky. Like that's probably the worst I've had.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Glaze sucks.
And I've just left that glaze in a bucket in the corner of the studio and I'm too scared to go near it again.
I
think it got too hot and too thick.
Yeah.
But I'm still not 100% sure.
We'll find out when we do a bit more testing, each of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
about you? Tell us the horror stories.
Well, I have another large vessel that I have come to love. But I actually applied a commercial glaze to an Amico Vintage Gold to the outside of it. And I'd done it on a few pieces before and had a lot of success. But this was a different clay body I was trying it on. So expect different results on different clay bodies, obviously.
Especially if they got iron in them. I think iron does things.
So I had applied it too thickly and the whole vessel, similar to your experience, came out blisters all over it, but really fragile, big ones. So like you touch it and you get little bits of broken glaze on your finger and just not safe to handle or travel with, even though it looked pretty good.
Yeah,
it looked cool. Not the desired effect, but you actually had a really good idea. And you said, why don't you try grinding it back? And you gave me a little axe grinder. And I did that on the surface of it. And what it did was it left the imprint of like the shape of the base of the bubbles, and it was safe to touch because all the shards were gone. But it looks really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And so many people comment on that surface as well.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about refiring it and, stuff.
Sometimes I'll get like a pinhole or a blister. I don't know, like a pinhole really.
Yeah.
Especially some of the newer Mako glazes, like that last lot that came through. They're really beautiful, but if they're too thick, they pin.
Yeah.
But you can refire them.
Yeah.
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 So I've had a lot of success refiring. I have put cookies, which are just bits of clay, thin clay, that like a slab that I rolled out and put kiln wash on. I put them under things that are a bit risky.
Yeah.
So I don't destroy my kiln shelves. But it's always when I forget to do that I do destroy the kiln shelves.
Every time.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And every time you use it, everything is safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every time.
There was another time I took on a commission. This is quite early on when I had my kiln. A dear friend was doing gift packs and she wanted cacao bowls, like ceremony.
Oh, yeah.
So I pinched them all. I used red clay and they were gorgeous. I loved them. They just felt the texture of them was really nice to hold. And I used some commercial glaze and learnt along the way that red clay is not compatible with all glazes. And it lets off a lot of, because of the iron content, it lets off a lot of gas in the firing, even beyond bisque, like in the glaze as well. So I just picked something that was a bit incompatible. And everything blistered. It was like, I can't remember, 20 bowls. So I remade them, refired them, tried again. I ended up at the end of the order having made 60 tea bowls for an order of 20.
Oh my goodness.
It was chaos.
Did you refire the original ones?
I refired and it didn't help.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so.
That's the same with this clear glaze. I refired and, I mean, one worked.
One?
Yeah, out of like a kiln load, but yeah.
Yeah.
And, when they're running, you can't refire.
No.
Yeah.
No. Just chaos.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, it really is ceramics. We must be really curious because we just keep going and we keep having failures. But, is it a failure or is it a learning?
I don't know.
Yeah. So, Laura, do you have any glaze goals for life?
Oh,
well, for the near future?
I do.
Yeah.
I want to, well, there's a few steps before I can get reduction happening, but I'd like to get my other kiln up and running and fixed and do reduction glazes.
Is that big gas one?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I keep forgetting its existence, but you know, it's like one of those long-term goals.
Yeah.
But I'd love to be able to do reduction glazes here, which would be amazing, which is something we haven't chatted about yet.
No.
So reduction is a process that happens, you know, in your raku firing. You can also do it in a big gas kiln. So it's when you can decrease the amount of oxygen that is being fed to the pots, and the flame that you're feeding into the kiln will look for oxygen, basically, because you're not giving it any. So it'll attack the oxygen molecules in the glaze, and that's what brings the metals to the surface of the glaze, and you get really like lustery colours, particularly in raku.
Copper reds. So copper's normally green in oxidation, but in reduction goes red.
Yes. Yeah, beautiful copper red glazes. That's potters that chase a really rich red generally do like reduction firing.
Yeah. Same with wood firing too.
Wood firing,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fun.
Changes the colour of your clay too.
Yeah.
Like you can get like really rich colours out of your clay. So a buff clay may come out like a deep brown. Yeah. Lots of beautiful, fun things to explore. That and just basically having all my own glazes that I've made.
Yeah, sounds good.
No more commercial because it's so expensive.
Yeah, it is.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so expensive.
Have you ever gone down the clear journey?
No, I think clear. I will just buy commercial clear glazes, like the 5 kilos at a time that I need, just because they are so reliable.
Yeah,
and I don't use them very often.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
What about you? What are your glazes?
Well, I'm kind of, I'm on my like replacing each of my palette, each colour with my own made glaze. But yeah, that's one, I guess, goal. But I think my long-term goal is I really love classic celadon. So because I want to go down the wood-fired route, I would really love to develop a beautiful celadon that goes on porcelain in a wood-fired kiln that you just get that. There was one at Golgong that I took a photo of and it just keeps playing on my mind, that bluey green.
Yeah.
Ooh, beautiful.
Delicious.
Yes.
That's a good goal.
I think, what one goal is to go a bit easier on myself with this journey too. Like, I always apologise that I use commercial glaze.
You don't have to.
No. And I always am like, I'm not a real potter and like, I failed at this glaze. And I think I just need to go slower and gentler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a strange attitude, particularly stemming from like traditional potters and pottery. And, depending on your background, you may only think someone's a real potter if they dig their own clay. Okay. Someone's only a real potter if they make their own glazes.
Or if they throw and don't hand build. Like there's so many weird niche judgments in the pottery world. I think
a lot of those attitudes need to be just abolished. I think there is a certain amount of education that everyone needs coming into ceramics and respect for traditional ways. And I just think that, any kind of gatekeeping shouldn't happen because I'm of the belief that the more potters, the better.
Yeah.
I think it would be beautiful if our community could grow more, and commercial glaze is great for that because it makes it more accessible for people as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I've learned so much from using commercial glazes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just a reminder, everyone, wear your masks. When mixing powdered glaze.
PPE is important.
Yeah, that's an important one. But besides that, I think we've covered everything pretty well.
Yeah, I think my dogs are about to bark a lot, so...
Yeah, we better say bye.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time. Also, the best way to get our podcast out there is by word of mouth. So if you have any potter friends or clay family, please share our podcast with them if you think they'd like it. And yeah, leave us a review.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed. You can find us on Instagram at birdsofclay_podcast. Please feel free to send us any questions or comments. And if you could leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening on, that would be amazing. We'll see you next time.